Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback the fans wanted, the quarterback the locker room was buzzing about, the quarterback who brought excitement the moment he arrived, was right there. Helmet on, ready to go. And yet Kevin Stefanski and the Browns brass kept him on ice, clinging to the belief that a 39-year-old veteran could carry them through the storm. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. Now Flacco's fall from grace was almost too on the nose. The interceptions, the missed reads, the sacks, they all piled up, but it was that fumble that broke the dam. In a game with playoff implications against one of their fiercest rivals, Cleveland was left with nothing but embarrassment.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And the fans? They didn't just boo Flacco. They booed the philosophy. They booed the arrogance. They booed an organization that refuses to listen, not to reason, not to its fan base, not even to common sense. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders' legend grows without him even touching the field. Every mistake by Flacco becomes another argument for why Sanders should be out there. Every shot of Shedeur standing stoic on the sideline, watching the disaster unfold, adds to the mystique. It's almost Shakespearean, the rightful heir forced to wait while the old guard crumbles under the weight of its own hubris. And here's where the drama gets even juicier. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about control, about power, about an organization terrified of change. Jimmy Haslam doesn't want a rookie dictating the pace of his franchise. Stefanski doesn't want his authority questioned by a kid barely old enough to rent a car. But here's the kicker. They've already lost that battle. The fans are chanting for Sanders. The media is clamoring for Sanders. The players, though they won't say it outright, are looking around the locker room and wondering how long they have to endure this circus before Sanders gets a shot. That's why this fumble hit harder than just a turnover. It symbolized a franchise at war with itself. On one side, the past, safe, predictable, uninspired. On the other, the future, raw, electric, undeniable. And right now, Cleveland is clinging desperately to the past, even as it betrays them in real time. Now let's take a step back and really look at the bigger picture. How many times have the Browns been here before? How many times have they stuck with the experienced veteran, only to watch him crash and burn? The quarterback carousel in Cleveland is practically a punchline at this point, and yet they seem determined to spin it one more time. And for what? To prove a point? To justify their stubbornness? Because make no mistake, Flacco wasn't just losing games. He was losing credibility. He was bleeding the last ounce of patience this fan base had left. And that's dangerous. Cleveland fans are some of the most loyal in the league. They've endured heartbreak after heartbreak, and still they show up, still they believe. But you can only slap them in the face so many times before they finally snap. And right now, the chants for Shedeur aren't just chants, they're ultimatums. What makes this saga so fascinating is how avoidable it was. Stefanski could have made the bold move weeks ago. He could have given Sanders real reps, built momentum, and shown fans that he was willing to gamble on the future. Instead, he doubled down on safe and ended up with the most humiliating outcome possible. That's not just bad coaching, that's career suicide. You can almost feel the hot seat beneath him starting to smoke. And here's the real kicker. Shedeur Sanders doesn't even need to take a snap to be winning this battle. That's the irony of it all. The Browns' refusal to play him has turned him into a symbol. He represents hope, change, and excitement. Everything this team is currently lacking. And every time Flacco drops the ball, Shedeur's stock skyrockets without him having to do a single thing. He's the undefeated quarterback of the people, and the Browns have no idea what kind of monster they've created by keeping him locked up. Now, let's talk about Dillon Gabriel for a second. He's in the mix too, a young quarterback with flashes of potential. He's had moments that suggest he could be part of the future, but even Gabriel's presence doesn't generate the buzz Sanders does. Gabriel feels like a nice piece. Sanders feels like a revolution. And revolutions don't wait forever. That's what makes the Browns' situation so volatile. They're sitting on a ticking time bomb, And every bad play by Flacco pushes them closer to detonation. Eventually, they're going to have no choice but to unleash Sanders. And when that happens, two things can happen. Either he delivers and the city of Cleveland erupts in joy, or he struggles, and the critics pounce, declaring that the Browns were right to hold him back. But here's the twist. Either way, the Browns lose the narrative war. Because the longer they delay, the more they look like cowards, and the more Sanders looks like the answer, even if he isn't. And let's not ignore the business side of this. We're talking ticket sales, jersey sales, merchandise, all of it. Flacco isn't moving product. He isn't energizing the fan base. Sanders, on the other hand, is a marketing dream. He's young, charismatic, tied to a legendary football family, and already has a massive following. Playing him isn't just good for the team, it's good for the bottom line. So why hasn't it happened yet? Simple. Ego. That's the tragic flaw in Cleveland's story right now. The people in charge are more worried about protecting their authority than protecting their season. They'd rather be wrong on their own terms than right on someone else's. And in the NFL, that kind of thinking is fatal. So what's next? Honestly, it feels inevitable. Flacco's days as the Brown starter are numbered. Everyone can see it. The only question is whether Stefanski is brave enough or desperate enough to finally hand the keys to Shedeur Sanders. Because the way things are going, if he doesn't, someone else will. Coaches get fired all the time for less, and the cries for change are already deafening. But here's the thing. Whether Sanders succeeds or struggles, whether he lights up the field or goes through growing pains, he has already won. He's already the people's choice. He's already the name the NFL is buzzing about. And the Browns, by resisting him, have only made his eventual debut that much more dramatic. So let me ask you this. Was that fumble the final straw? Is it finally time to move on from the ghost of Joe Flacco and embrace the chaos, the excitement, the inevitable rise of Shedeur Sanders? Or will Cleveland keep clinging to the past until there's nothing left to cling to? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Because trust me, this drama is only just getting started. The Browns thought they could delay destiny. But destiny, as we all just saw, has a nasty habit of forcing its way onto the field. And when Shedeur finally takes his first snap, the NFL won't just be watching. It'll be holding its breath. Let's start with Joe Flacco. The man is a Super Bowl MVP, sure. He has a ring, he has experience, and he has the kind of calm, steady veteran presence that teams think they need in tight situations. But here's the problem. This isn't 2012 anymore. The Joe Flacco who once marched into the playoffs and beat Tom Brady and Peyton Manning on the road. That guy doesn't exist. What Cleveland has now is a relic. A quarterback who can still throw a deep ball once in a while, but who panics when the pocket collapses, who can't escape pressure, and who, more importantly, doesn't fit the future this team claims it's building. Watching Flacco in that Ravens game was like watching an old fighter step back into the ring. You recognize the stance, you recognize the confidence, but the punches? They're slow, they're telegraphed, and eventually, they're landing nowhere. That fumble wasn't just a mistake. It was the inevitable conclusion to a quarterback who's running on fumes. And the fact that the Browns hitched their wagon to him when they had Shedeur Sanders right there, that's not just a bad decision. That's malpractice. Because here's the thing. Football isn't just about numbers on a stat sheet. It's about energy. It's about belief. It's about giving your fans something to hold onto when the scoreboard looks ugly. Shedeur Sanders represents all of that. The kid hasn't even been given a real chance yet, but the aura around him is undeniable. He's a symbol of hope. He's a signal to the fans that the Browns are ready to stop repeating the same tired cycle and finally take a risk on someone who could change everything. And that's what makes the stubbornness so maddening. Kevin Stefanski isn't just protecting his playbook. He's protecting his ego. Every time he insists Shedeur isn't ready, what he's really saying is, I'm afraid of losing control. But the truth? He's already lost it. The locker room feels the shift. The fans feel the shift. The media feels the shift. Everyone can see that this team is begging for a spark, and the only person who doesn't seem to get it is the guy holding the headset. Now, let's talk about Dillon Gabriel for a second. He's not irrelevant in this story. He's actually proof that the Browns can recognize young talent when they want to. Gabriel's early flashes showed exactly what happens when you let youth and hunger take the wheel. Mistakes? Sure. But there was fire. There was fight. There was possibility. And in a league where possibility is currency, the Browns are flat broke right now. They're squandering it on Flacco because they'd rather gamble on familiarity than on potential. And that's why the fan base is losing its mind. Cleveland fans aren't stupid. They've seen every version of this team possible, from 0 to 16 misery to fleeting playoff runs. They know the difference between a lost season and a chance worth taking. That's why they're chanting Shedeur's name. That's why they're booing Flacco. Not because they hate the man, but because they hate what he represents. The same old story. The safe, predictable, uninspired decision that keeps this franchise stuck in mediocrity. The Ravens' game was the perfect storm. A national audience. A hated rival. Playoff implications. And in the biggest moment, Cleveland's leadership clung to the past and got embarrassed for it. And the worst part? They can't hide from it. That fumble is going to live forever. It's going to be played on highlight reels, analyzed on talk shows, and replayed in every conversation about this team until Shedeur finally gets a shot. It's not just a turnover. It's a symbol of everything wrong with this franchise. And here's where the karma really kicks in. Because the Browns thought they could control the narrative. They thought they could say, we're going with the veteran, we'll ease Shedeur in, we'll play it smart. But football doesn't care about your PR strategy. Football exposes you. And in that moment, when the ball hit the turf and Ravens defenders swarmed, the Browns got exposed. Their plan didn't just fail, it humiliated them. Meanwhile, Shedeur doesn't have to say a word. He doesn't have to take a snap. He just has to sit there, helmet in hand, while the entire city of Cleveland screams for him. That's power. That's leverage. And the Browns handed it to him on a silver platter. Now let's zoom out. This isn't just about one game. This is about a franchise at a crossroads. They can keep clinging to their old habits, play it safe, ride the veterans, hope for a miracle. Or they can finally break the cycle and take a risk on something new. And isn't that what Cleveland's been begging for all along? A team that doesn't just survive, but dares to dream? Shedeur Sanders is that dream. He's not guaranteed to succeed, but he's guaranteed to give this city something to believe in. And belief matters. It fills stadiums. It sells jerseys. It energizes a defense. It makes every player on that roster fight harder. Because suddenly, they're not just playing out the season, they're playing for a cause. The Browns need that cause right now. They need that spark. And every day they delay it, every game they waste on Flacco, they're digging themselves deeper into a hole they may not be able to climb out of. Because here's the reality. If Stefanski doesn't make the switch soon, he won't be around to see the payoff. Coaches get fired for less. And this fan base isn't going to forgive him for fumbling the future the same way Flacco fumbled that football. And think about the optics. Imagine the moment Shedeur finally gets the start. The crowd roaring, the jerseys flying off shelves, the buzz crackling through Cleveland like electricity. If he plays well, Stefanski looks like a fool for waiting so long. If he plays poorly, Stefanski still looks like a fool for waiting so long. Either way, the coach loses, and Shedeur wins the narrative. That's how badly the Browns have mismanaged this. The Ravens' loss wasn't just a bad night. It was a turning point. A moment when the old way of doing things was exposed as not just ineffective, but downright embarrassing. And now, every eye is on Cleveland. Every analyst, every fan, every rival team waiting to see if they'll finally wake up and embrace the future staring them in the face. The camera cuts to Shedeur Sanders on the sideline, standing there, helmet in hand, calm but clearly seething. You didn't need audio to know what was going through his head. You've got me sitting here while this guy loses the game for us? Really? Every Browns fan watching felt it too. That simmering frustration, that sense of wasted potential, that question screaming in their heads. Why not Sanders? That's the moment you realize this isn't just about Flacco being bad. This is about leadership being afraid. Afraid to take risks. Afraid to hand the keys to someone unproven. afraid to shake things up even when the current path is a guaranteed dead end. And that's what separates great franchises from ones like Cleveland. Great franchises know when to make the bold move. The Browns? They'd rather crash into the wall with a veteran than take a detour with the future. And yet, here's the beautiful irony. Every second they delay Shedeur's debut, they're only making him bigger. He's not just a rookie quarterback anymore. He's a movement. He's a symbol of what could be, of what should be. Every mistake by Flacco adds to Shedeur's myth. Every missed opportunity is another rallying cry. He doesn't even need to step on the field to win this battle. The Browns are handing him the narrative on a silver platter. Think about what this does to the locker room. You've got veterans who've been grinding all season, watching Flacco implode, knowing Sanders is sitting right there. How do you sell trust the plan when the plan clearly doesn't work? How do you keep a defense motivated when they're busting their tails only to watch their quarterback hand the ball to the other team? At some point, even the most loyal players start side-eyeing the coaching staff and thinking, do these guys actually want to win? And then there are the fans. Oh, the fans. Cleveland fans are some of the most loyal, resilient people in sports. They've endured heartbreak after heartbreak, and somehow they keep showing up. But patience isn't infinite. You can only ask people to believe for so long before they start demanding proof. And right now, the proof is ugly. The proof is Joe Flacco fumbling against Baltimore, while the chosen one stands idly by. You could feel the frustration radiating through the stadium. Those weren't just boos aimed at Flacco. They were boos aimed at an entire philosophy. Now let's talk about Kevin Stefanski, because the man is in a no-win situation of his own making. If he sticks with Flacco, the fans revolt. If he throws in Shedeur and the rookie struggles, the critics crucify him for rushing the kid. But that's the thing. By waiting so long, Stefanski has already lost. He's already admitted, through his inaction, that he doesn't trust his own instincts. Coaches live and die by conviction. And right now, Stefanski looks like a man with none. Meanwhile, the business side of this franchise is screaming for change. Flacco isn't selling jerseys. Flacco isn't putting butts in seats. Flacco isn't making highlight reels on social media. Shedeur Sanders, on the other hand, he's a marketing goldmine. He's young. He's electric. He's tied to a legendary football family. Playing him isn't just a football decision. It's a business decision. And for Jimmy Haslam, who's never met a revenue stream he didn't like, the pressure is only mounting. Here's where the karma comes full circle. The Browns thought they could ride with the safe choice, the steady hand, the old veteran. But in trying to avoid chaos, they created something far worse: apathy. Fans don't just want wins. They want excitement. They want hope. They want to believe that the team is building towards something bigger. Right now, the Browns are giving them none of that. And karma? Karma doesn't just punish you with losses. It punishes you by taking away the very thing you can't buy back once it's gone: faith. And that's what's really at stake here. This isn't just about whether the Browns sneak into the playoffs or not. This is about whether the Browns finally learn how to stop tripping over themselves. Whether they finally break the cycle of fear and failure that has defined this franchise for decades. Shedeur Sanders is the fork in the road. One path is bold, risky, and uncertain, but it could lead to greatness. The other path is safe, predictable, and doomed to end exactly where it always does: disappointment. The Ravens' game was a turning point, whether the Browns want to admit it or not. That fumble was destiny tapping them on the shoulder and saying, "It's time." The question now is whether Cleveland has the guts to listen. Because here's the truth: if they don't make the change soon, someone else will. Stefanski's job is already hanging by a thread. Coaches don't survive when the fan base turns against them, and the chants for Sanders are getting louder every week. Ownership can only ignore that noise for so long before they hit the panic button themselves. And when they do, the Stefanski era will end not because of one bad game, but because he failed to recognize the future when it was staring him in the face. And maybe that's the poetic ending this franchise deserves. Maybe they need to crash and burn one more time before they finally hand the keys to the kid who's been waiting all along. Maybe that fumble against the Ravens wasn't just instant karma. It was the beginning of the end for the old Browns, and the beginning of something entirely new. You could feel it in the stadium during that Ravens game. At first, the crowd was restless but hopeful, waiting to see if Flacco could steady the ship. But as the mistakes piled up, that restlessness turned into anger, and then into disgust. By the time the ball squirted out of Flacco's hands and Baltimore pounced, the fans weren't just booing the quarterback. They were booing the entire philosophy. They were booing Kevin Stefanski. They were booing Jimmy Haslam. They were booing decades of mediocrity dressed up as stability. That's why this moment is so much bigger than one game. This is about a fan base on the verge of mutiny. These are people who have given everything, loyalty, money, years of their lives, to support a team that keeps spitting the same tired story back at them. And now, when they finally have a young, dynamic quarterback who could change everything, the Browns are treating him like an afterthought. It's not just incompetence, it's betrayal. Meanwhile, Shedeur doesn't even need to say a word. His silence is deafening. His composure on the sideline, helmet in hand, while chaos unfolds on the field. That's more powerful than any post-game press conference. He looks like the future, and everyone in the building knows it. The Browns' refusal to play him is only fueling his mystique, only making the calls for his debut louder. Here's the part Cleveland's leadership doesn't get. This isn't a choice anymore. It's not about whether Shedeur Sanders will play. It's about when. Every game they wait, every turnover they endure, every boo that rains down from the stands is pushing them closer to the inevitable. The only question is whether Stefanski will still have a job by the time it happens. Because let's be honest, this fan base isn't going to tolerate much more. They're tired of being the punchline. They're tired of watching other franchises take risks, embrace the future, and reap the rewards while Cleveland clings to the past and collapses in real time. If the Browns don't make the move soon, they won't just lose games, they'll lose their fans. And once you lose the faith of Cleveland, you don't get it back. So here we are. Joe Flacco fumbles, the Ravens laugh, and destiny sits on the sideline wearing number 14. Instant karma has spoken. The only question left is this: will the Browns finally listen, or will they fumble away the future, too? What do you think? Is it already time to give Shedeur the keys? Or are the Browns destined to drag this nightmare out until the bitter end? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe, because this saga is only heating up, and trust me, the fireworks are just getting started.